Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into the world of mantra. And it really gets into how mantra can, help us peel back layers of ourselves and connect with something bigger.
Okay, yeah.
Like become one with the universe and all that.
Right, right.
What do you think about that? Is that even possible?
Well, the source starts by talking about this analogy of a diamond. Imagine a diamond buried under layers of dirt.
Oh, I see.
That diamond represents our true self, the part of us that's eternal.
Okay, so it's not just like rough edges we're talking about. It's completely covered up.
Yeah, and all that dirt, that's all the conditioning, the societal pressures, all the mental clutter we kind of pick up through life,
Yeah, I get it. So societal expectations, past experiences, all those limiting beliefs that we sometimes hold on to.
Exactly. But what's so important to remember is that the diamond itself, it's never damaged. It's always there, perfect and, whole. And just like that diamond, our true selves are already perfect and whole too.
So it's just a matter of getting rid of all the stuff that's hiding it.
Right, exactly.
It makes me think of that story about Mullah Nasruddin.
Oh, yeah.
His friend was completely baffled by how his unattractive daughter managed to marry a doctor.
Oh, right. I've heard this one.
And Nasruddin just jokes that the doctor cured his headache by taking his head away.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Right. But it also kind of connects to this whole mantra thing, don't you think?
Absolutely. Because the idea behind mantra, at least according to the source, is to, quiet the mind, to get rid of all that mental chatter that's stopping us from experiencing our true nature.
So it's saying that it's actually the mind with all its ups and downs that causes suffering.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. But honestly, the idea of using a mantra makes me a little nervous. What if it backfires,
Yeah.
What if instead of calming my mind, it makes it even more chaotic?
That's a valid concern. This source does say that there's a potential for misuse.
Oh, okay.
It really emphasizes, though, patience in using it the right way.
Got it.
It compares mantra to homeopathic medicine, actually.
Interesting.
It needs to be applied in just the right way, gradually, to really be effective.
So it's not a quick fix.
Right.
Okay, so the source outlines this 3-step process for practicing mantra. Step 1 is physical recitation.
Yeah. And it's very specific about how to do it.
Oh, really?
It says to, shake your body first to release any restlessness, and then sit still for 10 minutes, and then chant Om really powerfully. Fill the room with the sound.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
It even suggests finding an empty room so the sound can really reverberate.
It's interesting. I was reading some research about how sound impacts plants.
Oh, yeah.
Made me wonder if it affects our bodies the same way.
That makes sense. I mean, we're all just vibrating energy, right?
Yeah. Right. And there are all these studies showing how sound frequencies can make plants grow faster.
It's fascinating to think about how that might work on us, too, on a physical and mental level.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've vibrated the room with our Om chanting. What's next?
Step 2 is going inward. It's mental recitation.
Mental recitation, okay.
You chant Om silently in your mind for 10 minutes, but with the same intensity, like you're flooding your inner world with the sound.
Okay, so first we're chanting out loud, and then we're chanting silently.
Right. The source says that doing this, chanting continuously, helps to block out thoughts, and that creates a sense of peace.
That's interesting.
It's pretty amazing that something so simple could be so powerful.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so after all that chanting, we get to step 3, and this is where it's a bit mysterious. Becoming the listener. What does that even mean?
It's about shifting from actively chanting to just listening to the subtle inner sound of Om becoming the witness.
The witness, okay.
Rather than the doer. This is where true liberation from the mind starts, according to this source.
It makes sound pretty special.
Yeah, it is. This source says that because doesn't have a form or image, it gets you closer to the pure sound of existence.
Pure sound of existence. Wow.
It's considered a universal sound. It's found in lots of spiritual traditions, not just this one.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, even the Islamic Amin is thought to be a variation of Om.
That's fascinating. So all these different practices, they might all be pointing to the same truth, even though they seem so different on the surface.
It's true.
Makes you think, doesn't it? So one thing the source mentions is that we should practice consistently for 3 months without, like, focusing on the results.
Patience is key.
Right, like a kid planting a mango seed who keeps digging it up to see if it's sprouted yet.
Exactly. We have to let the mantra work its magic on its own time.
Yeah, I can see that. It kind of relates back to this key idea from the source, Sukha Dukkha Bhaya Vrittiya Hain.
Mm-hmm.
It translates to happiness and sorrow are external fluctuations.
Okay.
It's basically saying that we identify with both our good and bad feelings, and that's actually what causes suffering.
That's powerful.
It is, right.
Yeah.
And the source uses this analogy like, imagine a house on fire.
Okay.
But you've already sold the house, so even though there's a fire, you don't suffer because you're not attached to it anymore.
I get it.
That's what they're getting at with detachment. But then it goes on to say that we should start by detaching from happiness.
That seems counterintuitive.
Right. Why would we want to detach from happiness?
Exactly. But the source says that detaching from happiness is harder because it goes against how we naturally think.
It does.
But it's really important for breaking free from, like, being attached to both pleasure and pain.
So it's not about becoming emotionless, but rather just observing our emotions without getting lost in them.
Exactly.
It's like the source uses this example of a man with a beautiful wife who ends up falling for a maid. It's showing how pleasure is fleeting and how our minds are always wanting something new.
It's so true.
But, I mean, doesn't that make enlightenment sound kind of boring? Like Bertrand Russell, he worried about that, right? The whole idea that being peaceful would be monotonous.
That's a common worry. But what the source says is that the part of our mind that craves change, that gets bored, that's actually what's left behind in enlightenment.
Oh, so we're not actually losing anything.
Right. True bliss is about being in that unchanging, peaceful state, free from constantly wanting or not wanting things.
So it's not about having no experiences, but rather experiencing things in a different way.
Exactly.
A way that doesn't rely on things outside of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting concept, especially in today's world where there's so much going on all the time.
It is.
And this is where the source brings in this concept of Kaivalya.
Right. Kaivalya.
It's being alone and content with yourself without needing external happiness or fearing sorrow.
It does sound a bit paradoxical.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so intriguing.
It is. And it's important to clarify that Kaivalya isn't about actually being physically alone. It's more about recognizing that you're complete within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need external relationships to feel whole.
So you can only really connect with others once you're connected to yourself. I like that.
Yeah.
But we've covered so much already, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole mantra and liberation thing.
There's definitely more to explore.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to dive deeper into all of this in part 2. So for now, we'll leave you with this idea of Kaivalya. Think about what it means to you.
It's worth pondering. You know, a lot of people might think Kaivalya means like being lonely.
Yeah.
But it's really about having that deep connection with yourself.
Right, like that inner fullness that allows you to connect with others without all the expectations or neediness.
Exactly. It's a really interesting perspective.
It is. So let's say I like this idea of Kaivalya. How do we actually get there?
Well, mantra is definitely a key part of it.
Okay.
But the source also talks about other practices and ideas that can help.
Okay, like what?
Remember our discussion about happiness and sorrow?
Oh, yeah. Sukha Dukkha Bhaya Vrittiya Hain.
Yes, exactly.
That one's still blowing my mind a little.
I know, right? It really is a profound shift in how we think.
Yeah.
And the source goes even deeper into how to actually detach from those external ups and downs.
Okay.
Talks about becoming the observer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like being the witness to our experiences instead of getting all caught up in the drama.
Kind of like watching a movie.
Exactly.
You can get lost in the story, or you can just watch it unfold knowing it's not real.
Right. And the source is saying we actually have a choice in how we relate to our experiences. We can either identify with them and create suffering, or we can observe them with detachment and find a different kind of freedom.
That makes sense in theory, but it's got to be hard to do in real life, right?
It is. It takes practice.
Okay.
It's about training our minds over time to become less reactive and more aware.
So things like mindfulness and meditation.
Exactly. Those are really helpful tools. And this source kind of hints at those kinds of practices throughout its teachings.
Got it.
You know, it emphasizes things like quieting the mind, becoming aware of the space between our thoughts, and cultivating inner stillness.
Right. Because if we're constantly bombarded by thoughts and emotions, it's hard to even get a glimpse of our true nature.
It is. It's like trying to see the stars in a city with all the light pollution.
Oh, I like that.
You need to get away from the light to really appreciate the vastness of the sky.
So true. And that's what this source is saying about creating that inner space, that stillness,
Right.
so we can connect with our true selves.
Exactly.
And the source seems to think mantra is a great tool for that.
Yeah.
It's not just about repeating words. It's about using sound and vibration to shift our consciousness to go beyond our thinking minds.
You know, the source has some really specific instructions for chanting
It does.
like shaking the body, filling the room with sound. It's not your typical meditation.
No, it's not.
It seems to emphasize that it's not just about transcending the body.
Right.
It's about using the body as a tool for transformation.
I've actually tried doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Like incorporating movement and even dancing into my meditation practice. It
Interesting.
really helps to shift my energy.
That makes sense. It's a more holistic approach,
Mhm.
recognizing that we're not just minds floating around, we're embodied beings.
Right.
And our physical, emotional, and mental states are all connected.
It's about finding balance and harmony on all levels.
Exactly.
But even with all these practices, the source seems to say that self-realization is a journey.
Yeah, it's not a destination.
It's an unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
Not like you reach Kaivalya and you're done.
Right. It's an ongoing journey of discovery and growth.
It's about becoming more aligned with our true nature moment by moment.
And that's the path to true liberation, according to this source.
Yeah, and speaking of liberation, there's this concept that I find fascinating.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It's boot kanchuk,
Okay.
which refers to the body and mind as garments that we mistake for our true self.
Oh, so like we're wearing these layers, these
Oh.
costumes that are covering up our true essence.
Exactly.
And the source is saying we need to shed these layers to reveal our divine essence.
I like that. And what's really interesting is this Indian concept of paramatma,
Right, Paramatma.
the idea that we all have the potential to become divine.
It's a powerful idea. It's not about reaching some external God, but recognizing the divinity within.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey of self-realization. And the source compares it to a tree blossoming into a flower.
I love that.
It's about fulfilling our potential, a natural unfolding of what's already there.
It's not about becoming something we're not. It's about letting our true selves blossom.
And that blossoming, that unfolding is what the source says is true liberation becoming Kaivalya.
Reaching a state of complete fulfillment no matter what's happening around us.
Exactly.
You know, and you put it like that. I'm starting to understand why the source describes Kaivalya as the end of birth and death.
Yeah.
If you're not seeking anything outside yourself, then the whole cycle of desire and attachment that drives rebirth just kind of disappears.
It's a profound idea.
Yeah.
It really makes us question what we're really searching for in life.
It does. Are we chasing fleeting pleasures that leave us empty, or are we looking for a deeper fulfillment that comes from within?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
Mantra Kaivalya, detachment, self-realization.
Still a lot to take in.
It is, but we've only scratched the surface.
There's so much more to discover in this source.
Exactly. But we'll have to pause here and pick things up in part 3. It's amazing how relevant this whole concept of mantra feels, you know?
I know, right?
Even in 2025, with all the information overload and like the constant pressure to be doing stuff, it's easy to get lost.
Yeah, for sure. And I really like how this source isn't like dogmatic.
Right.
It's more about exploring these questions ourselves,
Yeah.
and figuring out our own path.
Yeah, and it gives us some really practical things to try.
Right, like those mantra practices, the self-observation, detaching from all those external ups and downs.
It's like a toolkit for inner transformation.
Exactly. And it reminds us that this journey isn't about becoming someone new.
It's about finding what's already inside us.
Right, our own divinity, our paramatma.
That's what I find so inspiring about all of this. It's
Yeah.
not about chasing some external goal or prize. It's about realizing that perfection is already there inside us.
I agree. And the source uses that analogy of a tree blossoming into a flower.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right.
It's not about becoming something new. It's about allowing our true selves to, like, unfold.
That's a really beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And that unfolding, that's what the source equates with becoming Kaivalya, with liberation,
Right.
reaching that state of fulfillment, regardless of what's happening around us.
So it's like we already have everything we need within us.
Yeah, that's the idea.
It's just a matter of removing those layers, those, what was it, boot kanchuk?
Yes.
The garments of the mind and body that are hiding our essence. But then why are we so obsessed with being happy and avoiding sadness in the outside world? It seems like we're always looking in the wrong places.
Well, it's just human nature to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Yeah.
But this source suggests that true lasting fulfillment, that can only come from within.
So that inner journey, that's where mantra comes in.
Yes, it's about using sound and vibration to create that space within where we can actually connect with our true self.
Right. And it's about that self-observation, too.
Yes, becoming the witness to our thoughts and feelings
Hmm.
without getting swept away by them.
Like watching a movie. You can get all caught up in the story, or you can just watch it all unfold, knowing it's not real.
Exactly. And when we practice that detachment, we can start to break free from all that suffering that comes from identifying with our thoughts and emotions.
This whole deep dive has been so insightful.
It has, hasn't it?
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of mantra and what it can do. But before we finish, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
Hmm. Well, if there's just one thing to remember, it's that you are not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You are not your experiences. You are the awareness that's observing them. And that's where true peace and joy and liberation can be found.
That's beautifully said. And I would add that this journey of self-discovery, it can be fun. Remember all the humor and playfulness in this source. It reminds us to approach this with a light heart and a sense of curiosity.
Absolutely. Finding these deeper truths, it can bring so much joy and wonder. It can totally transform how we experience life.
So to everyone listening out there, we encourage you to give these mantra practices a try. Explore what it means to detach from all the external ups and downs, and really contemplate the nature of your true self.
And remember to be patient with yourself along the way. Have compassion and embrace all the mystery and beauty of the process.
You never know what you might discover. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep seeking out that inner sparkle. Until next time.
Please like, share and subscribe.